Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, and we battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time, according to two film geeks from Wiltshire, England. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a review and subscribe. Hello, Podderoonies. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast.
What the hell was that?
Podderoonies, I'm using that from now on. They're our peeps.
That's horrible. Don't ever use it. No, we're going to lose everyone now. We're all just going to unsubscribe. Podderoonies.
This week, as Dune hits cinemas in the UK and America, we're going to have a look at that film's director, and that director is Denis Villeneuve. So I'll be picking our favourite films of his work. And of course, I'm with the replicant himself, Mr. Boaz Dix. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm very good.
Good.
The responsible and pleasant replicant.
Yeah. As you may already know, we have a Buy Me a Coffee account, so if you want to show us your appreciation and just say a big thank you, you can just follow the show notes below, follow the link, and just say thank you with a coffee. That would be very much appreciated. Shall we go with your pick first, Boaz? What did you go with for Denis Villeneuve?
I went with Prisoners.
Nice.
Yes.
Why did you pick Prisoners?
Because I have seen this trailer. I saw the trailer for it at some point. I think it's just one of these where I don't really know the director that well, and I was checking his his list of movies, and I was like, other than Blade Runner, which you've got, and Arrival, because we've already picked I've already picked Arrival, and so other than that, I don't really know any of them. So it was like, I've seen a trailer for Prisoners, so I was like, yeah, okay, let's do that.
So what happens in Prisoners?
So Keller is a family man. He's got two kids, like an older teenage son and a young infant daughter. He's very much a survivalist. If shit hits the fan, you've got to be prepared. He's very religious as well. Most people in their community are. So he goes to a friend's house who has also got a family, and while they're celebrating and eating and stuff, both the daughters go missing, his daughter and his friend's daughter. They just disappear. So Detective Loki, who is not played by Tom Hiddleston, but is played by Mysterio, Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah. He's on the case to try and find the girls. They have one suspect, played by Paul Dano, called Alex, who has got kind of learning difficulties. He's not very there.
Well, he's described as mind of a 10-year-old. Yeah.
Mind of a 10-year-old, yeah. He doesn't really understand what's going on. So he's the only leading suspect. And Keller is certain that he kidnapped the daughters. So he abducts him, takes him to an abandoned house and tortures the hell out of him to try and, get him to confess. Meanwhile, Detective Loki is on the case trying to find the kidnappers because, So it's basically two investigations going on. Keller using his methods, which are quite questionable, and Loki trying
the torture chamber.
Do everything, to do everything possible.
Yeah, nice. So what did you make of this one? I thought it was really great, to be fair.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I'm not sure if it's going to stay with me for like ages and ages, but I do think it was a good film.
Certainly, performance-wise, it's really impressive. Hugh Jackman is pretty terrifying.
Hugh Jackman. We've done Hugh Jackman films before, and I think I said even then, he can have this intensity about him, like when he's sad or he's pissed. I think those are the best performances that he can do. Rather than try to be... He does a very good pissed. And whenever you have a film where his character has to go there, it is always very impressive. And he's there a lot. Calm family man, not for very much of the film, and then is just distraught and, doesn't even know what to do with himself and is, just like so fucking irritated. Well, more than irritated. He's distraught. He's pissed. He's angry as fuck. And that's where Hugh Jackman excels anyway. So great casting in my opinion.
So directing then, I do like how like the uneasiness of this film has a very slow burn to it. It slowly builds. The opening shot is a really patient shot on some woods, then very slowly pulls out to reveal Ralph Dover, played by Dylan Miniot, holding the rifle as he's about to shoot a deer. Then later you have the same shot, a bit shorter, but you have Ralph and his sister and friends walking down the street in shot, and we pull out to see the old caravan or RV where someone sinister is inside, where you think is sinister inside. Great mirroring there. You have a great shot just on a tree outside as well, the house, just outside the house, moving in really slowly. You just get this atmosphere of people could be watching you at any moment. It's just a nice opening to this film.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Where the camera is, it feels like you're behind some person, but it's almost supernatural, like a ghost or something, as he just edges closer and closer to the house, or closer and closer to, the kids, or through windows and shit. I think there's a directing technique, I would say, or style that's constant in the film, which I think also helps it, which is like use of, wide shots, just kind of further back from the action. You do have a lot of stuff that's close up, but you have a lot of incredibly eerie moments where the camera, or really tense moments, where instead of the camera being like right into the action, it's quite distant from it. And I do think that gives the feeling, this sort of voyeuristic, like you're witnessing a crime, you're witnessing all of this unfold, this kind of detachment from it, this and they do that a lot, and I think that's very effective. It's a very effective scene, especially actually even in the torture of Paul Dano's character, where he's got him on the wall and he's picked out a hammer, and you think that would be kind of close-up stuff, but no, it's from the doorway. Yeah, it does feel like you've really kind of entered this house, and you're like, oh Jesus Christ, I shouldn't be watching this, rather than you're actually one of the characters. You know what I mean? And I thought that was very effective. Especially like he's beating everything but his hand. He's going to break his hand. But I just think that was that was just done well, and they do keep doing that, of this pulling you out of the action. You're in the action, and then just pulls you out. So that you watch it,
Yeah, I think you find that a lot in Denis Villeneuve's work in general. Like, you have that a lot in Sicario, which I nearly picked for this podcast, and certainly in Blade Runner as well. Is a lot of wide stuff of just
there are a lot of
letting everything just immerse on the screen,
Yeah,
and this is no different, I don't think. I really liked how they reveal that Anna and Joy go missing, because there's no like fancy sequence showing someone taking them. The last you see of the kids is them playing, like singing Jingle Bells with Terrence Howard, who plays Franklin Birch, on the trumpet. Then the next scene is on Hugh Jackman, who plays the dad, Keller Rover, asking the older kids where their sisters are. And it develops from there. And I think it's just how you would experience it in real life when you lose anything. You're desperate to try and remember what happened. And I love the confidence of not making it showy or dramatic. Well, basically not even showing it at all, It's just like, it's all focused on the characters that we've been introduced to.
It's kind of the slow realization, because it is a slow build-up. It's like, where's your sister? Well, I don't know. She must be around here somewhere. It's like they check everywhere. No, she's not here. Maybe she went back home. Go home. She's not there. Okay, shit. Now we're really starting to worry. Just going up and down the street in the pouring rain until you realise, no, she is gone. But I do agree with that. That is a great way to set it up as quite realistic, if they were just abducted or whatever. Even if you lose something regularly, in your life, it can take... Sometimes, do you ever get that where you're like...
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Hang on a minute. And then you look everywhere, and then you're like, oh, God.
Where's my pen? I had it here.
Yeah. But, obviously, like 1,000 times worse.
I do like my pen, though. So.
Yeah.
This film certainly does have some very, like, mild suspense scenes, I would call them, to keep this film very grounded. And I think my favourite is when, like, Detective Loki, he finds Keller pretending to be asleep in the abandoned building, and Loki makes Keller give him a tour of the building and tries to walk him up away from the bathroom upstairs where he has Paul Dano's character in the torture chamber thing. But Loki goes in that direction. As he's picking up the phone call, you get a brief shot from inside the bathroom where Alex is as Loki walks straight past the door. And it's just a great, like, fleeting moment of high tension because if he just turns his head slightly to the right, he'll see something that's certainly not right in that room. Then, of course, it's flipped on its head for Keller, where right at the end, where he's in the big hole under the car. You know, Loki can hear something, but the film cuts to black before he finds him, or does he? You know, it's just quite a good mirroring there as well. The film takes like a really interesting turn where you really don't expect, because you get the sense that David Dastmalchian's character, Bob Taylor, has something to do with the kidnapping and not Alex at this point in the film. And Loki turns up at his house, arrests him quite brutally. You know, he smashes his head on the wall and like, oh shit. Then the atmosphere of the place is like really weird. You have all these maze drawings on the wall, like a pig's head in the sink. It's like, what the hell? What movie am I in now?
I think that was pretty creepy and done effectively, because when he looks at the sink, you can see all these flies going off. And I was like, you know, is that one of the girl's severed heads or something? But it's a pig's head. Like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Then all these boxes on the floor, Loki opens one of them and finds like bloody clothes and a bunch of snakes. And it just weirds you out. Like, what the hell is going on? And you're just like, who is this guy? But I was also like, why are you opening more boxes? Did you not see the snakes?
Yeah. I would at least close one box of snakes before opening another box. You go, dum. But he's like, fuck, and there's snakes everywhere. They're just all around his feet.
And I think all the boxes have like little air holes in them. So I'm like, there's going to be snakes in all of them, dude. Stop opening them. Let's a professional
get animal control. Get a professional hazmat suit.
The film certainly keeps to this uneasy, quiet dread with the suspense. And the scenes with Keller and Holly Jones, the kidnapper, is very underplayed. Like, the natural narrative just plays out. There's nothing fancy with the reveal of her holding the gun at Keller. You know, the pace is slow. The same is when Loki finds Holly with Anna. Nothing fancy, nothing particularly dramatic until like a big flash of violence with the gunfire when Loki kills her. But the dramatic scene is when Loki is driving Anna to the hospital. You know, Loki can barely see the road as blood is pouring into his eyes. It's pissing down with rain. So many near misses with other cars. You know, as the film has been fairly unpredictable until this point, you half expect him to crash, and I think it works really well. The fact that the dramatic scene is with Loki saving Anna's life in his car, taking her to the hospital, not taking out the kidnapper, because all the emotion has been kind of channeled into finding the girls and not finding the kidnapper. So I quite liked that distinction that the filmmaker uses there.
It's kind of like, say, you know, the opposite of Silence of the Lambs, you know, where she finds the, you know, kidnapped victim of Buffalo Bill, and there's a huge build-up in that gunfight, but then it's like, oh, the girl's safe. This is like, nope, kidnapper is done for. Holy shit, like, we've got to focus on saving the girl. So I don't know if you noticed that, but it is kind of reverse of the scene.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. But I think with Silence of the Lambs, the tension is a lot higher. Yeah, and the characters are probably a bit more compelling, I would say.
Yeah. Valiant effort, though.
But yeah, what I'm saying is this is certainly built on certainly the emotion and the innocence of this child saving her life. And in Silence of the Lambs, is Jodie Foster going to get out of this? Is she going to take down Buffalo Bill? You know, you got a favourite shot then, or scene?
Let me hear yours first, then let me think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I quite like the moment when Nancy Birch finds out that Keller and Franklin have kidnapped Alex Jones. And I like the composition of the scene where Alex is sat on the floor with his head in a bag behind the broken sink. You can't see the bag much. You just have like the broken sink where his head should be. And the bag and sink are like similar colours, this beige colour. You know, the sink is all messed up like his actual face, which is absolutely blown up like a bruised tomato. You know, like he's had 20 rounds with Mike Tyson. It's incredible makeup there.
Yeah. I find it kind of what was it? She's trying to show him the picture of her daughter. And he's like, listen, look, this is my daughter, just help me.
Yeah.
It's like, can he even see? Like,
Yeah.
his face is a giant red sponge. Like, I
Yeah.
don't see any eyes, ma'am. What are you trying to get him to look at? But yeah, he got fucked up. Yeah, he looks really bad.
So it's just a nice, like, pre-warning of, like, what his face is going to look like, where you have, the broken sink where his head should be.
Yeah.
I just quite like that,
Yeah, and his head is obscured, and she takes it off, and it's still
Yeah.
again, a wide shot, and she's, like, horrified, and then you see what he looks like. He looks all puffed up, fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would say my favourite scene, you've actually reminded me of what my favourite scene is, and I even just mentioned it a minute ago, but it is the one where he's torturing him, I think maybe the second time or whatever, and he pushes him up against the...
oh, right, yeah.
the cabinet, and he's going to break his hand with a hammer on the sink, and he just starts wailing at the sink and at the wall, to scare the hell out of him. And that was great, because I wasn't expecting that. I was like, bang, and then the sink fell apart, and I'm like, holy shit. But that whole scene, it was intense. So the intensity of it, destructible props. I mean, destruction's always great. It was just really freaky. I thought, blood was going to fly and stuff. The anger about it. But also, as I said before, I like the fact that, he likes to do wide shots, but even that we're out of the doorway watching this has a kind of more real feel. It's not like we're characters in this. It feels like we are literally watching it, just like, you've sort of stumbled on the wrong room. And I quite like that. I quite like that scene. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, very much full Wolverine mode there.
Yeah, very. Yeah. Could you imagine if he had like hammers instead of claws? This 3 giant hammers came out of his knuckles.
Yes, that would be a turn.
Yeah.
So directing score for me, I think I will go... I mean, it's really... Denis Villeneuve is like a modern master for me. I really do. I think his work is amazing. So I will go with a 8.8, I think.
Wow. Okay.
A wow of too low? Or...
No. Yeah, I'm feeling like an 8.5, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I wouldn't say this is his best film. I don't think. I've not seen Emily and Incendiaries, whatever you call that one, but I've seen all the others, and I would put this probably at the bottom of all the other films he's made, but not by a long way. It's all really close,
I think, what was it, when we're comparing it to like Blade Runner 2049 and even some of the stuff in The Arrival, because I was talking about how I just love the CGI in The Arrival. I think the fact that this is quite grounded. I mean, it's really good, but some of the other stuff isn't so grounded. So to compare it with Blade Runner 49 really goes out of its way to be crazy. So I would give that like a really high score. But no, this one is good. This one is good. It's directed well.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Screenplay then. I like the scene where Detective Loki finds the father's really creepy basement. That was creepy. And Roger Deakins can really shoot black and shadow like really well, by the way. And he finds like a dead serial killer in there. Then cut to Detective Loki hanging the father in the doorway of the basement, questioning him as it's got no stairs, basically torturing the guy. Then throughout the film, he's under time pressure because the longer he can't find the girls, the more likely they're going to be dead. And Loki basically loses it on Bob Taylor in custody in the interview room, and then he nicks one of the cops' guns and shoots himself with it. It's going from bad to worse for that character. And I would say Loki and Keller are fairly similar. They both resort to trying to hurt people physically to get answers because they're so desperate, and the police system is failing them, both Loki and Keller, to get the job done. But what's different about them is Keller is really angry and crazy at the start of the film, and then gradually gets calmer and calmer as the film goes on. And with Loki, it's the opposite. He starts off calm and gets angrier and angrier, where you learn that he really doesn't like keyboards. in the office.
Yeah.
He's like,
Basically. But I also have this particular note, like when he's after, what was the name of the either actor or character that the secondary antagonist, stole his gun and blew his face off?
Bob Taylor.
But yeah, I love his stuff with him because, when he chased him and all this stuff. But I like when he's really had it with him, when, as you said, his arrest, because I think that's the height of his, he smashes him against the wall and then puts him on the ground. And then he literally threatens him because he's going to check the place. Because if you move, I'll put a bullet in your head. It's like, what cop can say that to someone?
Yeah.
Like, this is just... But it is definitely a difference from when he's first introduced and he's basically begging Keller to be calm and to calm down. Listen, just trust me, this is a police matter. And he seems very sort of distant from the case. This is a case and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then, towards the end, he's very aggressive. And I agree. It does mirror a kind of a different sort of path, like an opposite path to Keller, who burns so hot. But then I like that bit where he's saying like a prayer, next to Paul Dano's torture chamber, and he's like, "Father who art in heaven," and stuff. And forgive us our trespasses and forgive those who and he can't even get himself to say that. He's like, should I forgive this guy? But he's kind of breaking down, and he's even begging him, just please tell me. Like, he doesn't want to be that anymore. He doesn't really want to beat him up.
Yeah, he's very much losing steam and losing emotional strength throughout the film, Keller, Whereas with Loki, he's basically getting so frustrated because he's written at the start as this detective that solved all the cases he's been given. So there's an element of like he doesn't want to ruin his 100% record as well.
Yeah, plus I would also say I would also say with his interactions with Keller, like Keller is rubbing off on him as well as he is rubbing off on Keller,
Yeah.
So it's like, I know more and more every interact. Yeah, I know how much this case means, Yeah. Like, this guy's in pieces. I need to, before he loses his way or something.
It's interesting with the parents' emotional state in this film because both Keller and Grace Dover, played by Maria Bello, are both looking for a reason why this has happened and looking for someone to blame. For Keller, he's convinced it's Paul Dano's character, Alex Jones. But Grace is kind of blaming Keller when she's crying in bed, and Grace says to him, You made me feel so safe. You told us you could protect us from everything. Which is certainly her emotions going wild and trying to rationalize the situation by blaming Keller, but it just makes Keller do something stupid in, kidnapping Alex as well, so that was interesting. She's really kind of suffering in a very much self-loathing way, I guess. And she's in bed, for most of the film. And Keller just becomes consumed by rage and is totally convinced that Alex took the daughters, and he hears Alex sing the Jingle Bells Batman Smells song, which was the same song the girls were singing before someone abducted them, but they were singing it outside, and Alex was inside the RV, and he may not have heard it. Plus it's a very common song that kids of that mind would sing. Keller is just latching on to anything to convince himself he's doing the right thing. He even says he's not a person anymore. No, he stopped being a person when he took our daughters, and I'm like, well, you're on the edge of not being a person too by creating a massive torture chamber where you can burn him or freeze him at the same time. I mean, who does that? So it's just completely
Wolverine, that's who.
Yeah. He's basically completely blinded by rage. When Keller has gone completely way too far and builds this torture room for Alex where no light can get in, and he has which can either, run cold or scalding the shower in the torture room. Franklin says, because Franklin's character's been helping him, and he says to Keller, have you lost your mind? And Keller says, go ahead, let him out if you want. I'm not going to stop you. If that's really what you want, go ahead. And Keller uses a bit of reverse psychology there on Franklin, but it kind of works more on Nancy, his wife. more. Franklin begins to break out Alex, but then Nancy says, Franklin, stop, think of Joy, and he stops. And when they get back to the house, Nancy says, we're not going to help Keller, but we won't stop him either. They're both being dragged into this morally grey area that kind of Keller has dragged them into. They both agree with what Keller is doing to Alex, but they both don't agree with what Keller is doing to Alex, but at the same time, there's something at the back of their mind saying, what if Keller's right? They don't want to rule anything out.
I do think this film is incredibly morally grey, if not to be almost nihilistic at parts, because it's like it wrestles with if he's doing the right thing here. But if you think about it, in some ways he kind of is. If he didn't do this, he wouldn't have got any sort of information or indication that it wasn't actually Paul Dano's character, it was his aunt, And then had he not kidnapped this guy, when he gets kidnapped by the aunt, they only go to her house to say, we've retrieved your kidnapped nephew.
They haven't got a clue he's down there, yeah.
No, they don't. Like, there is absolutely no evidence to link any of this to the aunt. It all really goes to Paul Dano or that other guy, Bob. And, had he not, abducted him and tortured him, they probably wouldn't have got any leads.
No.
So, I don't know. But it is kind of sad because, she's pure evil, like the aunt.
Because her motivation is the fact that she lost her daughter to cancer or something, and she's very religious as well. So she's like, "Well, I'm gonna take children. Why does it have to be me? Kind of thing."
Yeah. So as I said before, it was kind of this film, like the script. I do think it veers on. It talks about morality and the morally grey and all this stuff and rules and order and love and all that. But it does have this kind of nihilistic overtone that maybe there is no point, maybe there is no purpose, and what the woman, the villain is essentially doing is like, her and her family are doing a war. Her and her husband who died are doing like a war against God. Is like, their daughter died, and they're like, this world there can't be a God, or there can't be a good God. This world is terrible. It's not just. So they go around nicking kids to make people also just have a crisis of faith and just go, this world is just, there's no good in this world. This is ridiculous. So they're trying to spread nihilism. And so it doesn't work in this instance because, they find the daughters. But, they've made all of these people break their, their moral rules, things that they thought were absolutes,
Yeah.
So I do think the subtext behind it is a film about nihilism.
Certainly other than probably Blade Runner 2049, a lot of Denis Villeneuve's films certainly deal with morality. Morality is certainly a theme Denis Villeneuve is very interested in, and probably this one is arguably the best example of that. They certainly use that a lot in Arrival. For me, it doesn't work entirely well at the end. For me personally, we've dealt with that in Amy Adams' films. But also in Sicario, it's really good as well in terms of the law. Like, how far do you go in terms of capturing, drug lords beyond the border and all that? Sicario is a really great film too.
Like, do you have to be just as bad to do so?
Yeah.
But that is a good point. He does like picking the scripts that are to do with morally questionable protagonists and kind of pushing the envelope of what in fact is the right thing to do. Does anybody know? And I think this film does that a lot. Every character is questioning, like, are we doing the right thing?
He's certainly going away from that theme now with sci-fi. With, Blade Runner and now Dune, which is awesome. Have you got a favourite line?
Just before she kills Loki, Detective Loki kills, the aunt, who I forget her name.
Yeah.
Like, he's got her, and he's like, put your hands behind your head. And then she just, as she's poisoning Anna, she's putting the needle, she just says something like off the cuff. I had to rewind a couple of times where she goes, just let them cremate me. I don't want to be buried in a box. And you're like, that is such an ominous, weird thing to say. And obviously, because she knows she's going to die. I don't think she knew she knew she wasn't going to win that draw. She just wanted suicide by cop. And I thought that was a pretty dark line, cremate me. I don't want to be buried in a box.
And she says to Keller when she's putting him in the hole, she says, "Oh, I'd love for you to still be alive when I dump your daughter's body down there." It's like, fuck me, that's cold.
I think what was crazy about her character is she's so like friendly and wholesome with all this. Oh, he's just a little boy. We took him in. Oh, he's just a little boy, and talking about all this like cutesy stuff or whatever. She's not in the film that much before, and then at the end, she is like full on. She has some damn good lines, like really good lines, and she's really evil. I like where she's got the gun pointed at him and is like, she's just saying some really cool stuff, like horrible cool. Where he's like, she gives him the drink and is like, what was it? Someone your size, you need to drink about a third of that, it'll make you more manageable. You're like, and then he starts drinking a little more, a little more. So that'll do. And you're like, man, this is just so cold and calculated. Like, she's done this many, many times. And I like when, what was it? He says, "I'm not getting down that damn hole. You're going to have to shoot me." And she just shoots him in the leg. It's like, get in.
Mm.
Yeah, she was really, she was dark. God. She had some good lines at the end, though.
Yeah. I think my favourite is when Loki is following Keller and Keller's about to go and comes out of the liquor store and gets in his car. And Loki says, "Where were you going just now?" And Keller says, "I parked at the liquor store. I have a bottle of liquor. You're the shit hot detective. Work it out." That was quite humorous.
That was good, yeah.
So score for me for screenplay. Yeah, I mean, I like the unpredictability of it and how the characters were written. And certainly the first time I watched it, I did not see coming that it was going to be Holly Jones's character, the old aunt. That did it. I was like, whoa, that's insane. But I just kind of really like, this uneasy feeling you get in the film, and just certainly the morality of this, as you said, like it has undertones of nihilism, and Holly Jones's character is certainly bringing out the ugly, horrible side of all these characters, and I really, really like that. So I'll go like 8.7.
Especially because she looks so wholesome, as I said. Like, she acts so wholesome.
Yeah.
So it's kind of... I think it does sell the shock that she's just the most wicked, saddest, angriest character there is. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Good twist. It was a good twist. Yeah, 8.7. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I think I'll go with that.
Acting, then. For me, this is all about Hugh Jackman, really.
Oh, yeah.
This is our 5th film we've covered with Hugh Jackman, by the way.
Is it really?
Cool. Yeah, our 5th one. I'll leave you to work that out.
I'm trying to work this out. We did Logan, yeah.
Yeah.
Logan, The Prestige.
Yeah.
What were the other ones?
Eddie the Eagle. And
Eddie the Eagle,
Showman.
yeah. Oh, yeah, shit, okay. Yeah, he's popped up a lot. My God.
And I think we've probably picked him as our favourite performance in all of them.
Yeah.
Probably.
I mean, he's bloody good. So.
I don't know. I have to check.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hugh Jackman is amazing in this film. Like, early on in the film, he's so on edge and really angry throughout is really amazing. The first scene where he really loses it is fairly early on in the film when he meets Detective Loki for the first time. And Detective Loki says the guy they talk to in the RV has a mind of a 10-year-old. There's no evidence that it's him, and Keller can't understand why it's not him as he ran. If a guy of the mind of a 10-year-old has a mind of a 10-year-old, why can he drive an RV? Yeah. All of a sudden, Keller tells Loki to shut the fuck up, like, really loudly. And I feel like the microphones were completely maxed out on that. It was that loud. And Hugh really just goes for it there in that scene. It's really quite interesting, and he can certainly like see that he's really suffering. It's not like it's an emotional anger. It's a real emotional anger, not like a really aggressive anger, if you know what I mean.
So as I said, it's just all these little things. Like you can see that it's almost like there's water in his eyes. You can see he's shaking. You can see, like, his lips are quivering. It's that sort of anger. It's like, this is not fair. This just is really not fair. Yeah, as you said, it's an emotional anger. I mean, anybody can just shout their head off. You say, be angry, and you just yell. I think Hugh Jackman is really good because you can put, be, angry, and he can do that. Be angry, sad, and he can do that. Be angry like you're losing your mind, and he can do that. He's very good at being angry.
I mean, he really goes through the ringer in this film, and as I said, he's very much he gets calmer and calmer, and if not more emotional in his calmness, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Like, you can feel his sort of distress and his sort of sadness about this whole thing. And it's almost like he wants forgiveness. Yeah. You feel that through him. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But one of the most emotional moments I think he has in the film is actually one of the most calmest. When he's looking through the pictures of the bloody clothes with Loki and sees one he recognizes, Hugh becomes so emotional, and he has the wobbly lip thing with genuine tears, but it's not like ugly crying at all, which I think he did in like Greatest Showman. I think it's fairly calm, trying not to completely lose it in front of Loki, but still blaming it on him, but without shouting. This is your fault. You did this. But just as emotional,
Yeah, no, I even like that exchange where he was saying, you wasted your time following me, this is your fault. Yeah. But it's just like, you could feel like he wants to bowl, but he's holding it back. And I like performances like that because, that requires a lot more nuance. It requires a lot more self-control.
Well, I suspect Hugh Jackman had a big lie down after this shoot.
Yeah. It does look like it was emotionally draining just even watching him.
And I find Jake Gyllenhaal's performance in this really interesting as well, because he has like this twitch in his eyes. Did you notice that throughout the film?
Yeah.
He like blinks like a lot, which is kind of interesting because, as I said, he's kind of getting angrier and angrier, and it's kind of like like a ticking clock signal of just him exploding on people at the end. But yeah, my favourite performance is Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, I think so as well.
So acting-wise, I think it is really impressive, and there's some really subtle stuff in there, and arguably, probably second to Logan in terms of performance for Hugh Jackman. What do you think? Is he better in this or in Logan? It's difficult.
That is a really difficult one to say. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think probably better in Logan because I think he's pretty much in every scene in that. So.
Yeah, true. But I won't downplay this. He definitely does bring the emotion into it.
I'll go 8.8. I think
I'll go 8.7. Actually, I'll go 8.9.
Okay,
I'll go 8.9.
Okay, right. Let's add up the scores then for Prisoners. Good score. Prisoners gets 52.4. Right, my film then is arguably Denis Villeneuve's best film, in my opinion. Obviously, that's why I picked it. Yeah, I went with Blade Runner 2049. I think this is arguably the best experience I've had in like an IMAX screening, an IMAX cinema.
I would have loved to watch this in IMAX, yeah.
Just amazing experience. Yeah, it was just like, oh my God, this is huge. Just so immersive. I was surprised you didn't pick this because it was your turn to go first.
Yeah.
I was like, he's going to pick Blade Runner.
Yeah,
I was just so prepared to pick Sicario.
I should have.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to pick Blade Runner now.
Yeah, maybe I handed this to you. I just felt sorry for you.
Pretty much.
I think I could have easily picked this. I think the reason maybe I didn't is because if I had picked this and you had picked Sicario, which are the only ones that I recognised, really, I've watched them and I just kind of wanted to watch something new. But yeah, no, I'm glad you picked this though. It is a great film, and upon rewatches, this is my second rewatch of it. It was good the first time. There's so much I didn't pick up on that I got the second time.
Yeah, I've seen this quite a lot of times.
I think you could watch this quite a few times.
I never get bored of this film. I really don't.
There's a lot of details in this film that you could just keep going back to, and visually, it's very stunning. And there's just a lot of stuff going on, and the acting is really great as well.
Because I thought like you were bound to pick Blade Runner, because I really wanted to pick Sicario, because that's a great film as well. Because you didn't pick it, I was like, well, I have to pick Blade Runner now. I would just regret it if I don't. So I kind of felt compelled to like, well, I have to now.
Yeah. The first time I watched this, I'd never watched the original Blade Runner. I just went in. I do think you can just watch this. I don't think you necessarily have to watch the other one. It does fill you in on what the other stuff, what happened in the other stuff.
Yeah.
But I did watch the first one this time. So, I'm more engaged into this world. But I do think this can stand on its own. It references the previous movie enough that you can pick up basically what happened.
Yeah, I think I would probably agree with that.
So, if anybody wants to watch this and they also are like, I'm never going to get around to the first one, just watch this. You could just watch this. Yeah. This is a really good film, and you will immediately understand what's going on. It does explain it all, but not in a ham-fisted way.
And I guess the only real version you can watch is the final cut of the original Blade Runner. There is the theatrical cut, which has voiceover on it and has like the opening shots of The Shining in it as well at the end. So that's interesting version to look at, where like Ridley Scott basically phoned up Stanley Kubrick and just said, I need some like country visuals or whatever. And he was like, yeah, you can use my stuff in The Shining, but if I decide to use it in The Shining, you can't use it. So, so that's interesting. But that stuff isn't actually in the final cut.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different versions of the original film. But anyway, what happens in Blade Runner 2049? Well, we start off with some title cards explaining background, where the Tyrell company of replicants all kind of went rogue and started attacking people, and eventually the Tyrell company went bust. So a new company called the Wallace Corporation has taken over the replicant program and now has built new replicants that will obey. There's no doubt about it, they will obey. So we kind of come to this story with a character called Kay, a replicant Blade Runner who is tasked to retire or kill old models of the replicant program from the Tyrell era. So he goes off to this farmhouse and retires Sapper Morton.
Yeah, also called Drax.
Sapper Norton. So he kills him, but then...
Surprised he could see him.
Yes, very good, very good.
I got Drax jokes all day long. Yeah.
His drone scans the ground around this dead tree, and they find a box, and this box is filled with bones of an old Tyrell replicant, but it happens to be a woman, and it happens to give birth, which is just like, whoa, what the hell? From the Lieutenant Josh's point of view, this is so dangerous for the world order of things. This could create a massive uprising from the replicants if they know that they can reproduce. So Kay is tasked to find the child and destroy it, where meanwhile the Wallace company is basically tracking Kay's movements as well, because they want the child to experiment on and create their own replicant children, if you will.
Yeah, it's a nefarious sort of capitalistic thing. It would cut down on production costs.
Yeah,
if they could just give birth. You're like,
yeah, pretty much.
That's horrible. Like, yeah, the treatment of replicants, it is gross. But because they're thought of as machines. But anyway, carry on.
And throughout this story, Kay thinks he's the child that they're looking for. So. Which is really interesting, and he has an interesting relationship with another AI called Joy, played by Ana de Armas, and he ends up finding Rick Deckard, Harrison Ford's character from the first film, the father of the daughter, and then Deckard gets captured by the Wallace company, and they're going to take him off-world to torture him to find out where the child is, and then Kay finds out that he's not the child, that it's this memory maker in this quarantined area to protect her, where she's hidden Well, Kay learns that he's not the child from these replicant revolutionists. Yeah, and is tasked to kill Deckard, but he actually saves him instead so he can see his daughter at the end. Because obviously Deckard has completely just split ties with her daughter to protect her. So, and then the end is Kay takes Deckard to his daughter, and it's a really nice, lovely moment to end the film on. You know, it has a very, like, film noir-y detective, like, following breadcrumbs type story throughout the film. It's just really beautifully written, really beautifully shot. I fucking love this film so much. So, yeah, that's the story. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, man, it's an amazing bit of cinema. It's amazingly shot. It's colourful as hell. It's really nice to look at visually.
Directing, then, right from the first few shots of the film, like, it immerses you right into this vast world. The first bird's eye view shot is amazing on all these mirrors, and you're not quite sure what they are. Is this an indoor shot, outdoors? What is this? Then you have Kay's car like zoom past, and you see this vast sundial farm which goes on for endless miles. You know, right from the off, you get the sense that this film is going to be huge. Then the next thing you know is that I really love Kay's coat, and I was like, that looks amazing, I want it. And then you have, like, the juxtaposition of Sapper Morton's farmhouse, which is, like, so small and feels very dark and normal, you know, it feels very plain. And it reminds me of a Western almost, at this kind of beginning, you know, a huge desert landscape, and then you get the interiors of this small wooden house. It's really reminiscent of a Western, that opening. And I love so many of the design elements of this film. It definitely feels like a natural evolution of the technology from the first film. You know, Kay's car is quite frankly fucking awesome. You know, really nice and sleek, but the tech feels very tactile. He writes something down on like a clunky tablet. They still use like plastic wallets to put evidence in. Not fancy at all, really, in those terms. Just still very practical of things we would use today, even. And like the device Dr. Anna Zeline uses to create the memories, it's not like an interactive holographic projection like you see in every sci-fi film now. It's a little like cylinder that twists and has actual buttons on it, you know. And then when Kay comes back to LA, you know, it looks massive, and Kay doesn't have like a lavish apartment. The apartment is really small. The kitchen is tiny. Which tells you an awful lot about his character, that, you know, replicant Blade Runners is never going to be a wealthy occupation, you know.
Yeah. Also, the holograms just everywhere. I like how it's like they're really big and like in your face and intrusive, and they're everywhere, but they just fit in with the world. It's like they've just fit in naturally, like you know, billboards or all the kind of advertisements we have nowadays, which are just everywhere. They're just on everything, you know. Lunch boxes
and they're huge as well. There's like a ballerina that's like as tall as a building.
But I like how, like, to everybody this is just completely normal, you know. and it's even mixed in with the kind of regular drudgery of life, you know, traffic and takeout places and just, you know, whatever. And
I love the contrast of all the different locations. They're all so different. Like, street level LA, as you say, is like dank, dirty, and wet. It always seems to be raining in LA. Always seems to be at night. All the scenes are at night, or just very, very cloudy. Yet there's so much like neon color with the projected advertising. You know, like the Wallace headquarters is so sleek and clean, with clean straight lines. You know, really nice wood design. The lighting from Roger Deakins is incredible, where you have this reflective water ripples on the walls. Which serves zero purpose other than to be like self-indulgent to the characters, you know, of Wallace himself.
I think even when Wallace, like, he refers to himself as like a god, and, you know, and his children as angels and all this, and you have all this. The robotics and the machinery feel very natural. Like, all the cameras look like stoned, and it looks just amazing. It's glistening, and it's, as you said, very strong. It does look like heaven, the Wallace Corporation. It looks incredible. Like, you know, it looks just so pristine. So it does look like heaven, and it's kind of funny because he's got this huge god complex. But yeah, it's very different from everything else in the film.
And like when the replicant comes out onto the drops down on the floor. It's like it's coming out of a packet.
Yeah.
And you have things like the wasteland in San Diego where it's all grey and brown. You know, all the buildings are rusting away, and then you have the casino city where it just has this orange glow to it. Every area in this world is just so distinct and so different from each other.
Yeah, they've got like a different color palette, a different sort of environmental cue and a sort of feel to it, you know. So
I love the crash landing sequence in San Diego in the wasteland. That was really impressive, especially in IMAX. The film certainly isn't devoid of humour as well. There's some nice touches there. Love has these glasses on and is seeing what's happening and fires these bombs down on the scavengers while she's having her nails done in like bright colours. That was a nice touch.
Yeah, that was weird.
For the character. And nice piece of development for Love's character that she can multitask.
Yeah. I think that gets like the two things about her character is she's beautiful and trendy. She's trying to be like a real woman, but she is a complete psychopath. So that she can do something as nice as getting nice nails done and have like this wonderful dress and, you know, shoes and stuff, but still just kill a bunch of men at the same time, just like it's nothing.
She's crazy strong as well.
She is. It's quite a surprise.
I love the confidence in Denis Villeneuve to keep the pacing slow at times to create maximum atmosphere and impact. You know, with a huge film like this, with a huge budget, a huge spectacle, the temptation would be to keep the pace up, to keep going from scene to scene. But this director lets you immerse yourself into this world. There's a few scenes where this works really well. When Kay is in the wasteland orphanage and finds the wooden horse he sees in his dreams, Kay walks really slowly to it. You feel like you get the chance to see every little detail before you cut to the next shot. But the music is so impressive as well. It just builds and builds and builds until you see the date on the horse. And the other one is when Kay explores the abandoned casino, which has this incredible orange glow to it. Kay is walking incredibly slowly. And then you have these incredible massive drum beats with the music. You know, then he enters the hotel, and again, each shot takes its time until we meet Harrison Ford coming out of the shadows finally. Plus the confidence to reveal Deckard an hour and 45 minutes into the film is pretty ballsy. You know, the star of the first film. I was like, that's impressive. Up until that point, I was never wondering, oh, where's Deckard? You know, where's Deckard? I was just so compelled in the story and in the visuals that... You know, Deckard, for me, turns up at the right time, at the right time in the film, you know. Were you ever wondering, oh, where's Deckard, or were you just so in it?
Yeah, no, I was pretty in it. Yeah, I think, you know, I knew that Harrison Ford was obviously in it, in the film, but you do get really invested in what Kay, or as he's called, you know, he renames himself Joe, or Joy renames him Joe, what he's doing and his journey, that, you do sort of, you're very invested in him, and you just, everything else falls away, you're not really paying attention to any kind of preconceived things that you want in the film. And then Deckard shows up, and that's a really good surprise. You know, Harrison Ford is there, and you're like, oh my god, you know, I forgot he was going to be in this, you know. But I do think, I agree. I think they did make the character incredibly compelling, you know, and he's going through a lot, and the focus is definitely on him. That even by the time that shows up, you feel like he's coming to the conclusion of his journey. Do you know what I mean? You're really there with him. You're really there with him. You're very focused on how it's going to end for him. Because he's already been through a lot, you know, even before Harrison Ford shows up. I like how the action scenes and stuff like that remind you just what powerhouses replicants are. Like, you kind of forget how strong...
Yeah.
I kept doing this. I kept forgetting how strong Kay was and the other ones. But it's like, dude, they could destroy mankind so easily. I just like how they're just throwing each other through walls, and it does seem to be like, it's one of those things that it doesn't so much take you out of it, it's just go, oh shit, yeah, okay, I remember, he's not a real human being. He can get thrown through a wall. Because
he takes out Dave Bautista quite easily.
Yeah, that was a great scene. I love that.
Well, he does like bash him through the wall first.
Through the wall, And Dave even stabs him a few times. He's just beating the crap out, punches the fuck out of him.
Yeah, he doesn't react at all.
Also, what was it? When he's going around Harrison Ford's home and he sees like the bees he's keeping, and he just sticks his hand in there and all the bees are going over his hand. I'm like, why isn't he shouting? I go, well, of course, he's he's not a human being, you know?
Yeah.
I think the character that does that best, constantly does that best, is Love. Just how she can, like, come across as so feminine and then just snap a dude's neck like that, just bang, and he's just, you know, it's stuff like that. You're like, holy fuck.
After she kills Joshi, Lieutenant Joshi, and she scans her head, and the head just like bangs off the table and falls. That was funny. When Sean Young turns up, who plays Rachel, to see Deckard in Wallace's water dungeon, I really can't tell if they used de-aging technology or used a double to look like her or not, because she looks exactly the same.
Yeah, she does.
In the first film. Because Sean Young is definitely in the credits. She is in this movie. And if it was, you know, de-aging technology, then they did an incredible job there. You know, when people say, oh, de-aging technology isn't quite there yet, just show them this film because it looks fucking good.
You know, that really is a damn good example. If that was, I think it probably was de-aging.
Do you reckon?
Or maybe a mix of a double and de-aging for bits. I think definitely more impressive, because one that I see that constantly gets ragged on de-aging is Rogue One. And I think they just, I think...
Peter Cushing.
Yeah, Peter Cushing just looks it looks off. You know, especially the longer they look at him, you're like, something's a bit off him.
Yeah.
And a lot of people bring that up and other things in recent films. But that is near to damn perfect. I think people should really pick this out.
Yeah. Have you got a favourite shot or sequence?
My favourite sequences are to do with the hologram, Joy.
Okay, yeah.
Just because of how it looks amazing, and it's something that I've never really seen that much before. And it's just so strange. They get holograms really right here, you know?
Yeah.
Just how she, well, like a hologram, she's very see-through, because, you know, it's like, you know, like, but just how it's done. And I think particularly the scene that, like, messed with my head, there's two with her that I thought was shot. Like, just the shots are like, what the hell is going on? One is where he's looking through a microscope at the DNA code of the child or something, and she kind of goes straight through his head to look at the
to the other side.
To the other side to look through what he's looking at, and I'm like, whoa. And the other one is where she has sex with him with the body of that prostitute, and that was weird because she's like matching up with her face and body.
Yeah.
And she does it for the most part, but, you know, she can't get it just right. Dude, how long must that have taken to try and match them up like that? And also, because you want them to match sometimes, but not match a lot of the time. It must be so difficult. That was a really weird scene. I loved that scene. I thought it was an incredible scene.
I really like that, though. Certainly on a technical level, so impressive. Like, they've got to decide, like which character is going to be at the surface, what character you're going to see. You
know, which bits to cut out for this person and then substitute them for that person. When are they going to, you know, intersect and, like, you see them both, and when you... But it's seamless. You don't think about that. You're just thinking, so wow, this is... You know, so all the stuff with Joy the hologram, I thought, is just visually incredible.
My favourite shot is actually a transition shot, as you love your transitions.
Oh, I love my transitions.
Where, like, Kay is, like, lying down by a fire with the revolutionaries, and the camera focuses on the sparks of the flames of the fire, and the camera's pulling out and twisting, and then you cut to the streetlights of LA as we follow the flying cars. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
So, directing score, Boaz, what are you going for?
I'm going to go a 9.6.
Cool. Yeah. I think... just on a technical level and just how visually appealing this film is alone, it's just incredible. But I think the impressive thing is the pacing. Denis Villeneuve is just not afraid to slow things down, to really slow things down, let the audience soak everything up. And when he needs to go fast with the fight scenes, he can. And again, like you said in Prisoners, he's not afraid to just pull the camera out and let the actors do their thing. That happens time and time and again. Certainly with the fight stuff, there aren't that many tight shots at all.
Yeah, no, he does like to, as I said, you know, before that, and he does with this, get on this very voyeuristic sort of, here's the stage, it's almost like a play. Just here are our actors, here's the set. They can work their magic or whatever. Let the set work its magic.
Yeah. So I'm going to go like 9.8. I think this is pretty impressive.
I would say the fight with Harrison Ford is a good example of that as well. Where it drags out, and you say, and also that's very visually impressive because you've got. That's just also a technical marvel because you have his theatre,
the glitchy
Harrison Ford theatre. It's glitching, yeah. So you've got the glitching lights and stuff, but also the holograms are different. He's got a Marilyn Monroe show going on and a Elvis Presley show and different shows, going in and out while they're trying to beat the shit out of each other. It's just really incredible.
It adds an element of humor as well to me.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Just randomly Elvis just turns up doo, doo, doo. What the hell? Yeah, just really clever cat and mouse stuff there. So score for me, 9.8.
Is that the highest you've ranked a movie?
Probably, and it deserves it.
Yeah, it's just damn good. Yeah.
Screenplay then for this one. I find the relationship with Kay and Joy really interesting because they both are artificial characters. Technically, Joy being an AI production companion you can buy off the street, and Kay being a replicant. But their story is kind of touching and slightly emotional. It starts with Kay buying Joy a device so that he can take her out of the apartment and go anywhere. They have a kiss in the rain, but of course he's kissing nothing at this point. And then she just freezes while Kay listens to a voice message from Joshi. But I think why it's so emotional is when Joy gets broken is because when they both think Kay is a real boy. So Joe hires, as you said, a prostitute, and so Joy can sleep with Kay, whilst being synced to the prostitute's movements. But then we cut to a big projected advert for Joy, so then it becomes quite tragic, and then Joy has no individuality at all. And then Kay sees the advert for himself later on with the tagline, "Joy, everything you want to hear or see." So it's kind of quite tragic when she does get broken. I can't say die because she was never real in the first place, which is just sad in itself.
Yeah, but one of the big questions is in this film, especially with Kay's story, is what is real? When are you a proper individual? Because I like when he's even talking to the detective, and has this kind of, everybody has this kind of scornful view of replicants as they're not real people, they're not proper people, they're just artificial.
Yeah.
And what was it? So where she's saying, you've got to kill the child, and he's like, it's just a bit strange, I've never killed anything that was born before. Feels like something with a soul. And she's like, well, it never bothered you. And it's like, what do you mean? As he's going.
What's the difference?
Yeah. But she's like, she goes, it's something like that, but you've never had a soul. And he's like, yeah, okay. And he just leaves. But that insecurity that he isn't a proper thing. And then he feels like he's real because he thinks he's the child. But then his relationship to humanity, I think, is almost like the holograms to replicants. Even his relationship as a replicant to a hologram might be considered pretty strange because maybe he can empathize with that. She doesn't think of herself as real, and she's insecure because she's not tangible, and she's just data on a stick. But he also doesn't think of himself as real because he's also detached from true people.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of mind blowing stuff really in there that you can't really fully comprehend.
Yeah, it's the nature of a soul and consciousness and.
I love it in films where you have a great metaphor to describe what this film is all about. Essentially, they find out that the bag of bones was a woman pregnant and a replicant, which shouldn't be possible in this world. And Lieutenant Joshi says to Kay, the world is built on a wall. It separates kind. Tell either side there's no wall, you've brought a war or a slaughter. This world has an established order to things. Everyone knows their place. If replicants know they can reproduce, then they're on the same level as a human and should have the same rights as humans have, And it's just a great way to establish your stakes early on in the film in just a simple line. And it has weight to it already because there's been several cases of replicant prejudice just hinted at, in the beginning already. And of course there's irony there because Kay is asked to destroy the evidence, and he's a replicant.
Yeah.
So who must obey,
Yeah. Well, I think, even Dave Bautista calls him up on it, and it comes back into his head at the end, just after everything. It's like, how does it feel killing your own kind? And at first, he is very quote-unquote robotic. It's like, well, that's what I'm doing. That's...
Yeah. And you new models are happy scraping their shit because you've never seen a miracle.
Yeah.
I really like the baseline tests Kay has to do as he's a replicant. The interviewer asks like a lot of questions and throws in random words, and Kay has to repeat the random words and ignore the questions, which I thought was a really great test to establish whether he's emotionally stable or not. The first one, Kay passes with like flying colours, but the second one he fails miserably. And if you notice, he has a long pause after the interviewer says, "What's it like to hold the hand of someone you love?" And it's like Kay is genuinely trying to imagine that because he thinks he's a real boy at this point in the film. And there's certainly some Pinocchio themes going on in this film. It's just a really, really interesting test he has to go through, and you feel like the writers have really thought about what they need to do here to make sure this character is on baseline, as they call it.
Yeah, I really like that. That was also very suspenseful because he's going to fail, and then the guy says, "You're not even close to baseline," and he's has to see Lieutenant Joshi. I thought first time I watched it, they're going to execute him or something because he is malfunctioning equipment at this point, or that he might tell her, I'm the child or whatever. And I like where it's like, what the fuck is your problem? Do you know what I have to do? And he's like, it's done. The child is dead. And you think, you see the relief on her face and everything calms down. And it's like, she understands why he would be so perturbed. But that's not why he's perturbed. He's perturbed because he thinks he's the one.
He's the boy. He's the child.
Yeah, he's the boy. But, she's like, oh, now I understand where you're coming from. And she's like, okay, but in the next 48 hours, take the test again,
Yeah, when Kay finds out he's not a real boy, he's genuinely disappointed. Fraser, the leader of the revolutionaries, of the replicants, says to Kay, "You imagined it was you. We all wished it was us. That's why we believe." Then after that, he feels pretty worthless, plus he's now been given the task to kill Deckard, which obviously he doesn't. He saves him instead. It's just a pretty bad day at the office for Kay at this point. Yeah. It's like, fucking hell.
Yeah, he's been moved quite a lot, from one extreme to the other very quickly.
What do you think of the ending? I quite liked it with Deckard and his daughter, where Deckard just puts his hand on the glass and smiles, and then we just cut to black before he says anything. And I feel like that's all you need, because if you had like a line there, then Deckard's whole storyline of this film could potentially feel a little fake, with just like a line just to describe his love for her, because it could sound... do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know.
I think that was a wise move.
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes there are no words, or... that old adage where, the audience could probably come up with something better than the screenwriter. So he's going to say something. That's obvious. He's going to say how much he loves her and misses her and stuff. But maybe that's best. You just make that up, or it's a very private moment. And perhaps even just him smiling, maybe that's enough. I don't think you have to overdo it, really. So, yeah, I think that's fine.
There's some really interesting, beautiful lines in this, from Harrison Ford, like, sometimes to love someone, you got to be a stranger. And there's some really cold stuff from Love as well.
Love is brilliant.
I do hope you're satisfied with our product. Smash.
Yeah, just as she kills her. Yeah, she was, oh, man. And where she, like, scissor kicked him in the head is like, bad dog. You're like, what?
Yeah.
I think she has some amazing lines when she saves his life, and she's like, "Now get up and do your fucking job,"
Yeah. Yeah. After she just flat out murders loads of scavengers.
Yeah, and she's still doing her nails, and she's like, "Get up and do your fucking job."
Have you got a favourite then?
Harrison Ford intro was pretty good, where Harrison Ford was saying like,
"Oh yeah,
do you have a piece of cheese or something?" And he's like, "Treasure Island." He's like, "You read good," like he knows where the quote's from. Yeah, that was quite fun.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Mine is kind of a really, really interesting one from Wallace, a philosophical one, where he's meeting one of his children in air quotes as she comes out of the packet, as we called it earlier, and he says, "Oh, before we know what we are, we fear to lose it. Happy birthday." I thought that was quite interesting, that line, meaningful, just like, oh, yeah. I think he's probably quite right there.
What was it? I like when Harrison Ford gets captured by him and he's trying to, bribe him with anything. And Wallace says to him something like, oh no, Harrison says to him, "Do you even have any children?" He's like, "I've got millions."
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a very kind of strange character. As I said, like, he's got this god complex, and it's bizarre that he thinks of these replicants as his children because he treats them like crap.
Because he just, like, cuts open her abdomen for, like, no reason.
No reason at all. Like, he is incredibly...
Just because he can,
And has, what was it? When they offer him, Rachel, when we were talking about that, and he can have Rachel again, they've made another one.
Yeah.
And he's like, her eyes were green or something.
Yeah.
And he just orders Love to just blow her brains out,
Just nods at her.
Yeah. It's just like, he is incredibly cold. You can even think, like, Love, the reactions that she gives him, when his back is turned, like, she's very uncomfortable with him. And she's nuts, but she knows, like, her master could just kill her at any moment.
Yeah, Love is so devoted to Wallace. So devoted to him, She'll basically do anything for Wallace.
Yeah, I think she's, like, afraid of him in a servant, a slave kind of way, because that's what she is. But I find her character fascinating just because of how absolutely cruel she can be, yet her face, I don't even know what's going on there when she's doing a lot of this stuff. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure if she's like, gleeful or, like, pissed or what. There's something going on with her where you're like, there's something not right with her, and I just like how the actress conveys that. You're like, she just seems like a psychopath.
Score for screenplay, Boaz?
Yeah, maybe like a 9.
Yeah, again, I think the screenplay is really impressive. This film is a long film. Again, this is a case of a film where I wanted more.
Yeah,
I wanted more, damn it.
I agree. I think if you made this
half an hour longer, I would watch it.
Yeah, half an hour longer. Yeah, I'd watch it.
Definitely. Even with this pace.
This was a 3-hour, even a 4-hour movie. Yeah, I'd still watch it. Or a series, I'd 100% watch this.
I think the only negative, I think, for me, I love all the film noir-y aspects to it, the detective story, finding out this mystery type story. That I love that. But I just think maybe they probably don't touch on the emotions quite well enough for me. I think I'm being incredibly picky here, but I think they may have done that stuff a little bit better, maybe with Harrison Ford and his daughter. I'm not sure, but certainly with Kay and Joy, they could have made that a little bit stronger. I don't know how, but I think when she does die, it is sad, but it's not like ridiculously tragic. It's not tragic. I think that's partly to do with maybe Ryan Gosling's performance, but I think if he strays away from this very emotionless performance, then it wouldn't work as well. So it's a difficult one. Well,
I think he only has like one scene where he full on goes, he has a different emotion. It's very visible, and he is just like completely different. And that's when he thinks he's real. He thinks he's born, and the girl says, "Yeah, no, that memory's real." And he's just like, again, expressionless, like he is through most of the film, and then goes like that. He just goes freaking loopy for a couple of seconds, and I think that's as much as you get out of him. But I would say it's kind of strange because he is like the quintessential through most of it perfect robot, and that's what he is. That's what he is as a character, a perfect robot, and this is him learning to be human. And so he is kind of very one note through a lot of the film, but he's meant to be. And I do kind of get what you mean. Like, when Joy dies, it's sad, and it's devastating for him, but you can't really feel that it's that devastating for him.
That's why I wouldn't mind it being longer,
Yeah. I think maybe if he had just a breakdown scene or another one, maybe just another one where he just kind of loses his cool because something like that, or or if he had a scene with her where he was a lot more, vulnerable.
But this is me being like incredibly picky, I think.
Yeah, no, incredibly nitpicky. Yeah, because I mean, her death was pretty sad.
So I'll go like 8.9. Yeah, 8.9. Yeah. Right, acting then. When Kay speaks with Lieutenant Joshi in her office, there's like a little soul debate when Kay says, I've never retired something that was born before. You kind of touched on this earlier, but Joshi says, what's the difference? And then Kay says, to be born is to have a soul, I guess. And then at the end, Joshi says, hey, you've been getting along fine without one. And then Kay says, what's that, madam? A soul. And it's the way like Ryan Gosling just holds his position and just looks at her for a moment, contemplating the question, while Robin Wright as Joshi is just getting on with her work and doesn't look at him once while she says a soul. Like the distinction between like human and replicant is very clear for her, but for Kay it starts to become blurry. So that was just some really interesting performances there. And the scene that you kind of touched on with like Kay like bursts out with emotion with Dr. Stelline. I love the acting from Carla Jury and Ryan Gosling in that, when she's looking at Kay's memories through this device to see if it's real, see if the memory is real, and of course it is. And Anna gets emotional and starts crying, and you think it's because she feels sorry for him because it's illegal. But she has like a sneaky look at Kay, which feels off, and of course it's because it's her memory. Then Ryan Gosling does this shaky breathing thing and he keeps repeating, I know it's real, before shouting, God damn it. And it's quite shocking, that moment, because before he's so calm and collected, like he was made to be. And I think the ultimate question in this film and the original film is Deckard a human or a replicant? And if you ask Ridley Scott, who directed the first film, would say he's definitely a replicant.
Wow.
But with Denis Villeneuve, like, he thinks there definitely is some doubt there. Villeneuve continues to explore this question in this film,
Yeah. Well, I mean, when Deckard is captured by Wallace, he even, like, queries him if he was not designed to fall in love with Rachel. And you're like, wait, hang on a minute, what? And so he's even toying with that idea. It's not that Wallace is coming out and saying it, because he doesn't know. He wasn't Tyrell or whatever. But he's kind of questioning Deckard on it. Maybe you were designed to just... you were manufactured to do that. I don't know, it could be.
Yeah, he says, did it never occur to you that's why you were summoned in the first place to meet, Rachel in the first movie? Designed nothing short of fall for her right there and then, all to make that single perfect specimen. That is, if you were designed, love or mathematical precision. Then Deckard simply says, I know what's real. And then usually if a character says that sort of thing, that he's telling you, he's real. But Deckard begins to get emotional. It's like he's doubting himself, saying, am I actually real or not? I don't know. It's been such a long time in this world, in this situation, and it's incredibly well performed by Harrison Ford. He says, oh yeah, I know what's real, but on his face, he's not saying that.
Yeah.
So it's a great performance. What do you think? Is he a replicant or a human?
I think it's... like that, sort of fool me once, fool me twice. I think the fact that I think the fact that they mention it a lot and they allude to it in the first one, having just watched the first one, not long ago, and that they allude to it at the end of this. The only reason you would try to keep a question open is if it's it's an important question to ask. So I think it would be disappointing if he isn't. If he's just a regular human, why raise this doubt? I think. Maybe he was designed, maybe he was... Because the thing with all the other replicants is they are human plus. They're more intelligent, they're faster, they're smarter. Harrison Ford isn't that,
No.
He's not as bright as any of the replicants. He's not as calculating. He's very, he's like a human being. He's emotional, he's irrational. He's not as strong. But it could be that they designed a replicant to be more human because it would have the chance to make a baby.
So I think that's what Wallace is certainly trying to say, that like Deckard was created for the sole purpose of seeing if he could fall in love with another replicant and reproduce a child. So that's what this film brings that the first one didn't really.
That there was a purpose to his programming if he was a machine. But maybe this was a problem with all the other replicants. They were too artificial so that they couldn't make babies. You know, maybe they have to be more imperfect like men to do so.
So it's a really interesting debate that keeps going.
I think it's best not to solve it, but I think you know, they've left enough. I think if you even speak the question, you know, even if you keep repeating the question, then you already know the answer. You know, otherwise it's just disappointing. But I would rather they don't answer it because you know.
Yeah, I definitely don't want another movie. I mean, these two are certainly perfect in their own right.
I wouldn't mind stuff based in this universe, but I think leave Deckard alone. I think he's had his, you know.
And Denis Villeneuve has been quoted to say he dreams of Blade Runner, apparently. So it's not beyond the realm to say he might return to this world.
Directors dream of androids dreaming of electric sheep.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Maybe he was literally directly referencing that. I don't know. So my favourite performance is actually Harrison Ford, just for that single I think Harrison Ford is amazing in this film. Actually, he's not on screen for that much. Yeah. How about you?
Me, if we're talking about my favorite performance, again, I keep coming back to it.
Love,
love, man, love. I love love. I just love love. Sylvia Hoeks. Yeah, I just thought she was just creepy as hell, and just very unnerving. Like right to the end, just everything about her is just creepy. It's just. She doesn't seem like she should be a threat. She's very, very feminine. Yet she's a complete psychopath with the things that she does. The lines that she says, she can be very cruel and very vindictive. Her facial expressions, you're not sure what's going on. If it's fear, sadness, anger, stress, like she's all over the place, like visually. And I think that's good because it gives her this sort of unhinged, you know, I can't read you. And that makes her, to me, very dangerous. And then, you know, she does, like, these really playful, funny things, just how she delivers lines. Even going on, like, you know, when she fights Ryan Gosling at the end, and she stabs the fuck out of him and then kisses him on the lips. What the hell is that?
Like the kiss of death.
Yeah, but, like, the blood on her lips and stuff, and then just go... You're like, man, she is so weird, like... Yeah, I just thought she was a very weird character.
I think it's just like the arrogance of like she knows she's going to kill him, even though she does die herself.
But you know, even like when she, you know, I just found her a very unnerving character, and I think she was just brilliant to be the villain. Yeah.
When she's killing Joshi, as she's like crushing the whiskey glass in her hand, you know, she's crying. She's got tears down her face, like she's just so determined to get the job done. It's just like, wow, just for Wallace. It's pretty extraordinary.
Well, I think also she says something that should really unnerve anybody about new models of replicants. Because, you know, they're said to be loyal, which isn't the case, you know, when you know for Kay, because, you know, he has sort of lapses in this sort of judgment because you're with him. But with love, like she said that thing to Joshi where she's like, "What was it? The child is dead," and he goes, "What is that? Something he told you, and you believed him because you don't think we can lie." He's like, "I could just kill you and then say that I killed you in self-defense," you know, and you're like, "Wow, that's really dark, man. This is like a future I don't want to make," you know. Yeah, I just found her incredibly unnerving. I thought she was an incredible character. And, you know, obviously, you know, the actress, I think, did a good job of making her more unnerving.
Score for acting?
But yeah, everybody else is fantastic that we've talked about. I just really, I like her, because I like my villains, and she was a creepy villain. Score and acting. I'm either thinking 8.9 or 9.1. I'll do 9.1.
I personally think the acting in Prisoners is slightly better.
All right, I'll go 8.9.
You can't... Oh, come on.
All right, no, screw it.
9.1.
Yeah, all right. I do think actually you're probably right.
But did you want to genuinely change it? Or?
Yeah, I think I will actually. I was thinking, 8.9. I think sounds
okay.
Sounds a little better.
Yeah, I think it is better in Prisoners. I think the emotions are really there on each character. And there's quite a few characters with here. it's certainly a very different performance. I really love Ryan Gosling in this film, of what he does with the character. I mean, Ryan Gosling is a proper movie star. He really is. He's just got that movie star quality about him that you get in a lot of westerns. I'd love for him to do a western. When Harrison Ford turns up, he's incredible. A lot of the other characters around him, I mean, Love's great as well. They're fine, and even Ana de Armas, she's fine. So I'll go like 8.6. Right, let's add up the scores then for Blade Runner 2049. Ooh. Blade Runner 2049 gets a very, very healthy score of 54.8. So Blade Runner 2049 wins this week over Prisoners, who got 52.4. Two very exceptional films from, quite frankly, an exceptional filmmaker in Denis Villeneuve, and I cannot wait to see Dune in a few weeks. Next week, we will be focusing our attention on Last Night in Soho, which will be hitting theatres in the UK and US. And of course, Edgar Wright, who literally grew up a few miles down the road from where we are. We'll be having a look at our favourite Edgar Wright films, and we've covered Shaun of the Dead already in way back when in zombie films, so we won't be picking that one. And of course, if you want to say thank you, you can buy us a coffee. Just follow the link in the show notes below, and you can say thank you with a coffee. That would be very much appreciated. Boaz, you have been rather good, as always, as our resident replicant.
You're the...
The what?
You're... No, forget it. Edit that out. I just said you're the... But,
right. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Fine. All right. Bye.
Bye.
That's it for this week's pod. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to find out more about the podcast or suggest future topics for us to discuss related to upcoming releases, let us know on Instagram at Film vs. Film Podcast and on Twitter at FVF_podcast. Remember, please subscribe. Pod signing off.